My name is Nicole Anderson, and I'm the program manager of the NAU IHD AAC Evaluation and Training Program. And we're hosting this series of webinars. And today we have Brandi Wentland from Lincare AAC with us. And I'm going to let her do a more formal introduction of herself.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. My name is Brandi Wentland, and I'm a speech language pathologist, and I am the brand development specialist for Lincare, and I also am the US distributor of PixiePal. I have done a number of trainings for universities and other private organizations, and have also done a lot of ongoing therapy for people who utilize AAC. My good friend, Krista Howard, is a lifelong user of AAC, and she helped me to develop this presentation today. She's unable to make it with us tonight, but I did want to give her credit for the work that she's put into this presentation and some of the videos and photo content that you will see of her here. She is an ambassador for both PixiePal and Lincare AAC, as well as PRC, because Krista is a multimodal communicator and utilizes a wide variety of AAC to communicate. We do have a handout for today. It is on my Teachers Pay Teachers store. It's free, so you can feel free to find We Speak AAC on Teachers Pay Teachers and look for that handout. And that will give you some of the resources that we're going over today. If for some reason you need access to this PowerPoint, we'll see if we can find a way to get you access to that later.
Brandi, can I interject here? Yes. Another resource I'm going to put in the chat is our contact information for the NAU IHD AAC Evaluation and Training Program. And I'll put that in the beginning and at the end. And I also wanted to say that I have learned a lot from Krista through the years, from her sharing her story.
Agreed. I have learned so much from Krista since meeting her at an airport in Minnesota. Krista and I met about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've become great friends. And I feel like I've learned more from her as a friend than really anywhere else, because she's shown me the inside look of what it's like to actually live and breathe as a user of AAC, what it's like to navigate the world. And I get to see firsthand some of the challenges and also the successes that happen in her life. She is a single mother of a young boy who is now 10 years old, and she also attends college where she's trying to finish her degree. She already has an associate's, and she's working on her bachelor's degree. She'd really like to become an SLPA to advocate for the people that are utilizing the same systems that she is utilizing. So today, I've got a lot of fun planned for all of you. I believe that people learn best when it's hands-on. So if you have access to AAC, whether it's high tech or light tech, any form of AAC that you have, go run around the house, grab what you've got, bring that to the table, because if you're able to actually practice some of the things that we're doing today, you're going to learn so much more than just taking it in as head knowledge alone. So for those of you that are new to this and have heard terms like AUGCOM or AAC, I want to break that down on what that might mean. It could be both augmentative and or alternative communication. So for myself, when I lost my voice recently and was unable to talk, and it was very painful to talk, it was augmentative communication. I was using it in addition to some of my, the little bit of verbal speech I could use. For some people, they have verbal speech. I have a good friend who has selective mutism, and for her, she has verbal speech most of the time. But when anxiety piles up and she's unable to communicate verbally, then she's utilizing AAC. For other people, it might be that they have verbal speech, but they're not always understood. So for some of those people, they may speak verbally, and then when they're not understood, they clarify meaning with their device. So that would be another form of augmentative communication. Alternative is saying instead of verbal communication. So AAC can be either. It's not just for people that are 100% nonverbal. It can be for the whole spectrum. And AAC is not just a device. A lot of people think it's just a high-tech speech output device. Well, that would be a speech generating device, an SGD, but AAC is a lot more encompassing. It includes facial expressions, sign language, gestures. We all use AAC, things like texting and writing notes. So it's not just an AAC device, it encompasses so much more. And many of us are all multimodal communicators. So the people that we work with that utilize AAC, or your children that utilize AAC, are not confined to one mode. They can use multiple modes, just as my friend Krista does. These different types of AAC can be classified in a lot of different ways. One way could be to talk about things that are aided, something that has voice output, or something that's unaided, something that does not have voice output, instead just requires your body. So aided could include high tech, mid tech, light tech, and no tech. Unaided could include sign language, gestures, and facial expression. So when we're starting to look at light tech or no tech or low tech, there's all these different terms out here. What that can really mean is just a single sheet of paper, like the poster I have above my head over here on the wall. It could be a flip book, like this one you see with the alphabet here. It could include a binder, which is similar to Pod or other systems. I have a friend that utilizes menus, like the clear plastic menus that restaurants use, and she puts in light tech papers in there and uses those for AAC binders or books. In this situation, with these light tech modes, often the communication partner is the voice. So rather than some kind of synthesized speech, rather than a speaker providing voice output, the person they're talking to is confirming their message, is saying what it is the person is pointing to. There is no electronics or batteries or cords with no tech or light tech. So why would we use it? A lot of people think that it's an either or, and I really just don't believe that. I think it's really important that with all high tech, we also have light tech, because we could use it to model AAC. So if our child or client is using high tech, we could be standing beside them with light tech and modeling so that they're learning language alongside with them. Also so that we're communicating in the same language. We could use it as a backup. So maybe the device is broken, lost, didn't come charged, whatever it may be. Light tech is a really good backup in those situations. It can also be used when high tech is not an option. For Krista and I, we love to go to the beach, lazy lagoon, go to the pool, we love splash pads. For us, her high tech PRC accent is not going to work in those situations. It's great when she's giving presentations, for composing things for school, but when we're at the beach or in the pool, she doesn't want to risk damaging her device. So this is where Krista and I needed to find something to use in the pool so that we could communicate with one another. It could be, light tech can be used for children who demonstrate greater gains with light tech AAC. So for some kids, they actually just do better with light tech. For some communication partners, they do better with light tech because they're a little nervous about high tech. It can also be for those who fatigue over the day. So maybe they use high tech at the beginning of the day when they're at their peak and most alert and awake. And as their body starts to fatigue, they may switch over to light tech toward the end of the day. It can also be used to teach vocabulary for a whole class lesson. So a board like I have over my head over the wall over here, a teacher could use this to point towards as she's talking and giving her lesson to the class. So let's see it in action. At the height of the pandemic, my good friend Krista was laid off from her job, and she came to stay with me, and we were talking about what's going on with her, and we're hanging out in the pool, just talking about, you know, what her needs are and what's most important to her. And this is what she said to me with the light tech page that we created. We printed out a sheet of paper, we laminated it, we actually did several sheets of paper, and then we put it on a ring.
Want work.
So a couple of things here. I was the voice. Krista was pointing to her words. So I was confirming the message that I was understanding while I was talking with her. She was letting me know that she wants work. She stinks that she was laid off. And she's using this light tech, but she's having to use the tube that she's on to create some kind of resistance, right? Because these are floppy pages. And that became really challenging. As you notice, there's a lot of water on this. It kept falling off the tube, that kind of thing. And so we were looking for something a little more rigid, a little more durable. Also, over the course of the summer, the sun started to really affect this light tech page. It started to warp and water started to get in between the laminate. So it just wasn't a really good, durable, long-term solution for her. So we were looking for something else. And that's when a special education teacher in Australia contacted me and said, hey, look, I'm tired of laminating things. I'm tired of Velcro. I wanted to create something as a teacher where I could use less laminate in my classroom. And he said, I'd really like to show it to you. I've seen you talk about you and your friend Krista. I've seen the two of you post videos on Facebook. I'd really like to send this to you and see what you guys think and see if it would work for you. So he sent us the Pixie Pal. We were super excited. And we took it to both the pool and the ocean. And here you can see Krista talking with her son.
Pixie Pal is so cool. I can use it in the pool. I will push you in. What do you mean?
So as you can see, she pushed her son in and the Pixie Pal was submerged. I challenged her son, Michael, to cannonball into the pool, to run into the ocean, to bury it in the sand, to throw it, to stomp on it. I wanted to know how durable this thing is. And it withstood all of those tests. And so I would say that it's splash proof. I wouldn't call it waterproof. Water did get in, but I was able to open it up, dry it off, and snap it back together. Super easy to use. So it's still something that we use in all of the situations where water is present. So when we're using light tech, there's some strategies that are really important. And really these strategies could be employed to high tech as well, but they're particularly important when we're using light tech. We want to make sure that we're pausing. We're giving this person enough time to be able to communicate their message and wait to make sure that they're done communicating their message. We also want to make sure that we are providing a voice for them so that others around can hear them and so they know that what they're touching you heard and understood. We can also provide turning the page. So if they touch a button that normally would turn to another page in a high-tech system, we can turn the page and go to that page for them if that's not something they are able or wanting to do themselves. We also have some responsibility to make sure that light tech is always within arm's reach. So think about the distance of your arms, and you want to make sure light tech is no more than 2 feet around you everywhere. So if you're in a classroom or in a house, think about how can I print out pages and have them all over the house, all over the classroom, to where no matter where I'm at, the bathroom, the dining room, the living room, I can reach and grab and we can talk at any point in time. That's what's going to make modeling a lot more doable. We also want to make sure we're attributing meaning. So for our emerging communicators, if they're saying something that maybe doesn't make sense or maybe doesn't fit the context, that we're attributing some meaning to it so they understand that they said something, you heard them, and this is what you think it might be connected to. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we go on. We'll even get a chance to practice that together. So with these light tech resources, you can just print screenshots. If you already have an iPad, you're just going to your existing high-tech system like TouchTap, Lamps, Words for Life, Proloquo, Cough Drop, whatever it is you happen to be using, take a screenshot, send it to the printer. And then you have a light tech board. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this durable? Am I going to print it on waterproof paper? Am I going to laminate it? Or am I going to get some Pixie Pal snaps and put them into a frame and use it with something that can be carried around my neck? Am I going to use those menus? How am I going to use this light tech support in a way that's durable? If you don't have an AAC device that is on an iPad, maybe you have an Accent or a NovaChat or some other system that it's a little bit harder for you to get screenshots. In that situation, you can download an emulator. I have emulators on my computer. I use them in teletherapy. They basically are Windows-based software that emulates, that replicates the system that the person has. And you can often download these for free with a lot of the manufacturers. I've put some links here for both PRC and Saltillo. And if you want to get access to those links, we could always give those to you later. If you contact NAU or myself, I'm more than happy to send those links to you. So I wanted to find out, how are other families doing this? So my good friend Deanna and I were chatting, saying, it would be really nice if we got pictures of real people using light tech in their home, in the community, like I say, in the wild. How is light tech being used? So Deanna put out an all call on the Facebook group, We Speak AAC, and said, send us your pictures. So what we got were families using Pod in this first picture, a family that laminated a sheet of paper and used tie wraps to connect it to a beach bag. This young girl who laminated it and the family put it on the shower wall. That way it's always accessible during bath time, and she can communicate during that time if she has something she wants to comment or request, or if she has concerns. This other young girl has a large board like I have on my wall here that's at her home. Actually, in her public kindergarten is the next picture here. So she has one at home and one in her kindergarten where she's putting on her shoes. She has one to be able to communicate there, and also one at the playground. Other ways we found AAC being used were, instead of the Pixie Pal, this family used laminate and made an entire book of the entire system and then attached that to pool noodles so it would float. And a wonderful teacher named Kate Ahern, let's fix that, suggested that you do temporary tattoos. That way AAC is with them everywhere they go. Lots of really great ideas from these families. This is all one family. This is the AAC that's around their house. It's all over this playroom. So the first shot is the playroom, and then a lot of these others are zoom in, so you can see what else is going on in this room. You can see there's wristbands, there's AAC on cups, they have it on boards, they have it tucked into the cabinet over there. Even the stuffed animals have AAC, lots and lots of places. This is one of the families that has really embraced the every 2 feet, and AAC is all over their room, to the point where the parent even did a sidewalk chalk layout of the homepage of their child's device. With these families, they have AAC on a lanyard while their son is skiing, and another family that had it printed onto a blanket. I think they use Zazzle to do that. Another family that put it on a stuffed animal so that the child sees representation in the toys that they're playing with. And a child that's using it with a laminated sheet in the sand as they play at the beach. So let's talk a little bit more about Pixie Pal and why I've gravitated toward that. It is housing for AAC. It's not its own AAC system by itself. You need communication software or pages to put into it, right? And I really liked it because it allowed me to use any AAC system that somebody is already using and be able to put those into the snaps. It already has a really nice shoulder strap that's comfortable, and a breakaway strap for when that's needed. And it allows to fit 3 pages front and back, so a total of 6 pages. It's super lightweight, which is really important when you're hiking or in the pool or situations where you need something more rugged. And super easy to customize. If you want to change a page out, you just open the snaps and put another page in. So for those of you that don't want to purchase a Pixie Pal, want some other options, maybe something that's free, I've put a bunch of links on here of light tech resources that companies have already put out that you can download and print for free, and maybe laminate or find another way that you want to make it durable. So for those of you that are still a little curious, wanting to know what exactly is Pixie Pal, can I understand it? How do the snaps work? I've got a video here for you that we can take a look at so you can see how you set it up, how it works.
Work out what I mean, so won't you come with me? Let's go explore the world, discovering mysteries and stories we can't tell. I got something to say. I've got something to say. And it's easy, and you can help me. We'll have amazing adventures along the way. something to say. We've got something to say. We've got something to say.
I love seeing all the comments in the chat. I agree, love seeing all the use of AAC in the community and at home. And Nikki had a great idea of using it for positive behavior support. I've seen a lot of people use these for first send charts, or it does work with dry erase markers, so you can write on it and dry erase it. Lots of different ways that you can use the Pixie Pal. So here's an example of a way of taking high tech, like a Nova Chat or an Touch Chat, and printing the pages and sticking it right into the Pixie Pal. So you can see that these two systems match one another. And this is an opportunity where the parent maybe could use light tech and the child could be using high tech, or a teacher, or maybe a para in the classroom. Really great way to do this. Another opportunity is maybe someone doesn't have an AAC system yet and you're trialing things, or you're waiting for the device to be delivered. They could use Pixie Pal in the meantime with the same system they're about to get. So a county in California reached out to me and said, we're really struggling with getting AAC implemented in our district. We've been pretty much a PECS only district, and I'm having a hard time with our staff really getting on board with high-tech AAC and robust AAC. Not really seeing a lot of modeling, and not a lot of kids have devices or are using devices. So could you help us? So the first year I did a 8-hour training of all of the staff. And the second year, we decided we were going to do a preschool pilot. And what we did is we got Pixie Pals for every single child in the preschool classrooms, every single staff member that interacted with those children. And we stuck Touch Chat Word Power 60 Basic, 6 pages from there, into the Pixie Pals. I'm not saying Touch Chat's like the best. I'm not. You could use any robust system. I would be fine with this being LAMP or Proloquo or Buzz or any other wonderful system out there that's robust. This was just happened to be the system that the staff at large voted on to be what we implement as our first tier of support with RTI. So what we decided is everyone would get trained on Touch Chat, everyone would be trained on modeling, and they would be given resources from both from me and also from other resources that are free available through Project Core. And we did a 3-hour training with all of the staff at one time. And then all of the SLPs also got a 3-hour training on ongoing assessment, letting the SLPs know this is not the end all be all. This is just tier 1. We need to continue to assess these children to find out what else they might need. Do they need a different form of access? Do they need a different system? What else is needed for these children? This is just step 1. This cannot be the end for every child, but it's a way to just get going. So what we saw as the results of this is more modeling in the classroom by all of the staff, including the paraprofessionals, more students utilizing their AAC devices, and everyone carrying AAC with them everywhere they went. We saw everyone on board. We saw people who were previously adverse to anything other than PECS get on board and really start to embrace robust AAC. So how do you do this? How do you make it fit into the Pixie Pal? Well, I created a template with my good friend Sarah. Sarah Cruz helped create this template. We put it on the Pixie Pal website. It's also on the We Speak AAC website. And if you have your smartphone, you could scan this QR code here right now. You'd get access to our free template, where you just take a screenshot, stick the screenshot into the PDF we made and print that out. And that will assure that it's the right size for you to cut out and put right into the Pixie Pal. As you'll see, Krista is not the only person using it at the pool. This young man has a high-tech AAC device, and when he is in Special Olympics or when he's at the pool, he needs something else to use, something that is safer and less expensive to bring with him. His mom does not like sending his device to Special Olympics. She's afraid it's going to get stolen or lost with all of the different things that he's doing, but she felt much more comfortable with something that's less expensive, like the Pixie Pal, to send with him to Special Olympics. So we're seeing AAC go with him more places now. So as I promised, we're going to have some hands-on activities. And what I'd like to do with this is to talk about AAC and literacy and how we can use light text supports to teach literacy for those emergent people that need to learn emergent literacy. So those that are emergent readers, emergent writers. So one of the first things that you need to talk about with this is alphabet knowledge, which means everyone needs access to the alphabet. So if we go back to these 6 pages that we chose to put into the Pixie Pals, you'll notice one of these pages here is a keyboard page. And I advocate for this for everyone, no matter what age you are, even if you're 2, even if you're 1, even if you're 30 and you're not literate. Because how else will someone get access to literacy? How else will they develop pre-literacy skills unless they have access? So we made sure to include that in there and include that in the training so that people would understand how important it is to give them the access to the alphabet. Once we have access, then we need to talk about how do we develop those pre-literacy skills. Everyone has the right to learn to read, write, and spell. No matter how complex bodies they have, no matter whether or not they have a learning disability or a cognitive disability, they have the right to learn it. And we don't have to wait until they are older to give them access to these letters. We can start modeling now and provide those pre-literacy strategies. So some of those strategies could include signing in and signing out with a purpose. Not just for the sake of, do you know how to spell your name? But why should I sign in? Maybe I get to sign in for lunch, or maybe I get to sign out of math and go to recess. We need reasons to sign in and out so we can understand what's the point of even learning this so that we're motivated. If kids aren't motivated, they might display as someone that is incapable of learning, but what it really is that they're not motivated to learn. And so sometimes we don't know their potential because we haven't unlocked it. We haven't done something that's motivating for them. A lot of kids want to learn the first letter of their name, and they're proud of the first letter of their name, and we can help encourage that. They want to know the first letter of our names too. They want a chance to babble. A lot of people will call it stimming if someone gets to a keyboard page. And it's not always stimming. Oftentimes it's, what's that letter say? What does that letter say? What happens when I put all those letters together and make the speech display bar say a bunch of letters all at one time? We need to give them the opportunity to play with letters. That's part of pre-literacy. We also need adults to show us letter sound correspondence. So when someone is touching the M, like if they're touching M, we need to talk with them about, I see touching the letter M. M makes the sound. Like in Maui. So one of the ways that I've done this, both in teletherapy, and I've known many teachers that have done this with Retopia curriculum, is to use Jamboard. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So here, I've placed an image of Maui so they understand whose name that they're spelling. I've given them a limited field set of letters that they can move around. We could do this with magnetic letters in person if someone needs tactilely to move things. They could use this if they're good at swiping on Jamboard on an iPad. We could give them lots of other supports. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jamboard, but giving them an opportunity to spell someone's name. And what I might first do is do that letter sound correspondence. And I might talk about how you makes the sound or the oo sound. And I makes the it sound. I might talk, or in my name, Brandi, I makes the E sound. A represents the sound. And M represents the sound. We can also talk to them about listening to these sounds in their head and learning to recognize that inner voice. So, what do you guys think? What's the first letter in Maui's name? Which one of these letters makes the in Maui? And we can model first. If I were going to spell Maui, I would start with the letter M. Maui. What do you think? What's the next letter in Maui's name? Does anybody have a guess? And even if they guess wrong, that's okay. You guessed I. Eh. Let's check it. Eh. Meh. And so eventually we can start to spell the whole name. Even if I said, you know, if I were going to spell it, I'd put the next letter, ah, Maui, ah, ma. And we eventually spell out his name. And we could do this with other words too, but I really like to start with personally relevant words, their name, their favorite characters' names, things that are super important to the child so they understand the purpose and they are motivated to participate. So I learned a lot of this from a book called Comprehensive Literacy for All. And I'm going to go back to that slide here where you'll see the book. It's something you can get on Amazon. It talks about specifically how to teach emergent literacy for people who utilize AAC. It talks about the whys and research and how to do it. It's a really good book, and there's a great Facebook group that is going through this as a book club. I highly recommend all of that. And if you need links, we can always put that in the chat or get that to you later, or we can get you access to this PowerPoint. But I highly recommend this book. So many of us are not trained in how to teach emergent literacy. Many, many teachers, many school staff are just teaching sight words. And in fact, research doesn't show that that's the best way to teach literacy for kids that utilize AAC. And it doesn't teach them the skills to become independent readers. And so this book walks you through what those steps are. So once you have that, then you say, okay, now how do I do it? How do I equip the teacher that's working with my child? And that's where Readtopia comes in. It's an awesome resource that has provided full lesson plans for teachers to teach emergent literacy. And if you're doing it yourself as a parent, I know many parents that are doing this, or speech language pathologists that have decided to take this on, you can also get a subscription to Readtopia where you get access to all of this. You also have access to a free unit. And you can learn a lot of what you need to know with the free unit alone. So I have put on this slide an arrow here that says access a free unit, so that when you go to myreadtopia.com, you'll see here it says access a free unit. And when you click that, it's going to give you access to their full website without having to pay anything. And you notice this gorilla here. This is actually Dr. Dolittle. They've levelized books that are classics so that anyone can read them at their actual reading level. And there's a placement tool for this as well. So if you click view here, this gets you access to all the resources. This is the lesson plan for the teachers. There are video lessons involved. These are the levelized readers for Dr. Dolittle. And what I want to go over today is the phonics instruction and making words. So with phonics instruction, you get access to the whole curriculum they have for teaching phonological awareness. There we go. And it gives you step by step exactly what to say and what to do. It's very, very, very helpful. The other thing they give you access to is making words, which helps with starting to blend and decode. And again, it's full lesson plans, and these are all available to you for free. And I have taught children of all ages to learn to read using this curriculum. So again, that's the alphabet phonics instruction lessons and the making words. And you access that through Dr. Dolittle with the free unit. So I've got all those resources here on this slide. And if you need it, we can get you access to these slides later. So why is this so important? Older students, they found, with significant disabilities may also be emergent readers. And it's simply because of lack of access, experience, or opportunity. No one believed that they could. No one gave them the access that they need. In fact, the vast majority of students with significant disabilities are emerging in their understandings and use of print. Fewer than 1/3 can read fluently with basic literal understanding. So you see, it takes a broad range of opportunity to experience to give them what they need. They need to learn why we read. Why should I care? Why should I want to learn to read? This is hard, right? They need background knowledge and concepts. They need to develop understanding about concepts of print and phonemic awareness. They need to learn to identify some concrete words like their name. It might even be a word like McDonald's. It might be a hard word, but a word that matters to them, like Maui. That's a hard one, right? But if it matters to them, we might do a hard one first because it's what matters. We have their buy-in, and that matters a lot. So we have to learn to help them to identify a few letter names and sounds to start with. We're just going to reduce the field. Just let's start with a few, and eventually we'll get the rest of the alphabet. We want to help them to develop a desire to learn to read. So part of the way we're going to do this is with shared reading. It focuses on the interaction between the adult and the child, or the adult and the student. And a lot of people miss this. They think they're doing it, but they're not. Reading a book and asking a closed-ended question like, where's the bear, is not interacting. That's testing. And it's boring. And it can be demeaning for some kids. They want you to say, oh, if you could have any bear in the whole world, what bear would you want? What color bear would you want? They want you to interact with them, to care about them, not just get an answer right. And see, shared reading supports a wide range of skills. It's so amazing how simply just reading a book with a child can develop language and literacy skills, develop oral language, phonological awareness, print awareness. Just a child being able to pick out their own book and go over to the shelf in just 4 weeks, if you just let them do that alone, they're going to increase in their skills and make significant gains. If they just learn how to turn the book the right direction, that's some print awareness. That's a good first step. Let's go find a book, pick whatever book you want off the shelf, and let's get it turned in the right direction. Let's do that together. And let's talk about why it's the right direction and why it's not, and how silly it is when it's upside down. In fact, according to the Commission on Reading, it is the single most important activity for developing the knowledge required for eventual success in reading. It's the most important thing you can do. And honestly, just reading once a day at night with your kid, or as a teacher doing this each day, it's fairly easy to incorporate this in your routine. Of all the things out there that you can do, this is the most important one. So let's do this together. I've given you guys a lot of head knowledge now. Let's start applying this. Let's start modeling during reading. All right. We're going to do this with some different communication partner strategies. And each slide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a communication partner strategy, talk about it, and then we're all going to practice together employing that strategy. We're going to learn to presume confidence, to model, to make comments, and do more open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions. We're going to learn to appropriately pause. We're going to learn to wait as long as we need to for that particular person's processing speed. We're going to learn appropriate prompts and response strategies like attributing meaning. So first things first, presuming competence. You got to know that believing in the child is the most powerful tool we have. If you don't believe in them, how far are we going to get? So we need to believe that they can. This mom, Karen Owens, has adopted a number of kids with disabilities, and every single one of them, everyone on the team said they can't learn. And Karen said, I believe they can. This young girl, she went years implementing AAC, implementing POD, before the child ever initiated the wanting to talk. And she waited for that moment. And that one day when her little girl raised her hand to say, I have something to say, she knew it was all worth it. And that's when Karen went to Facebook and said, every human needs at least one person to cheer them on, to shout their name and encouragement during times of progress, stability, and also during times of regression. We must believe, and we must keep on believing. So take that with you as we do these things. And please don't say they can't. Please believe that with enough modeling, with you sticking the course, staying the course, for years. Eventually, they can and they will. They just might need more time than you're giving them. We have to remember that normal language development consists of protesting, commenting, and asking questions, gaining attention. It's not just answering test questions. So let's get beyond that. And when we're practicing today, let's make sure we're not just asking test questions. All right, here we go. Here's a book called The Great Hill. What we're going to start with is the cover. Some people forget this. The cover is just as important as the rest of the book. So with the cover, let's grab your AAC devices and let's model. What do you see? I'm going to grab my light tack. And I'll model for you guys first something that I could see. I see, and I like reading, and I like rain. I see the rain over there. You notice I didn't touch every word I spoke. That's okay. Even if the only thing you do is touch one word like I, that's perfectly fine. So a lot of you have your video and audio off. Feel free to join in. You're going to learn a lot more if you practice this. So if anyone has AAC there with them, either light tech or high tech, feel free to give it a try. Everybody's shy today. Okay, I'm going to give you guys more opportunities. I hope you warm up and join me. All right, let's go to the next slide here. Let's practice connecting. I'm going to read this first page of the book. Before time was time, there was a great hill. And on the great hill, there lived yolks. The yolks spent their entire lives climbing the great hill, trying to reach the top. Some yolks climbed fast. Some yolks climbed slowly. One yoke in particular was very slow. He was different than the rest of the yolks. Let's practice making a comment that connects with the people we're reading to. I am slow too. How about you? How would you go up the hill? Does anybody else have a comment for this page they'd like to try?
Love, go.
You know what? I love to go up the hill too. Could we go together? Awesome. I like how you use 2 words on your AAC device. That's really great because if our kids are only using 0 or 1 word, we always want to go 1 or 2 words beyond what they're doing. So when he climbed, all the other yolks passed him. It was hard for him to watch them pass by. He felt like the worst climber in the world. Some yolks made fun of him as they passed, others didn't. That really makes me feel very sad. How about you guys? Sad. Does anyone else want to tell me how that makes you feel?
Doesn't make me feel like wanting to go more.
I agree. No more. Some yolks wanted to help him climb, but he didn't let them. I have a question. I wonder why they wouldn't let him. Notice I asked an open-ended question here. There's no right answer here. They could say anything they wanted. So how about you guys throw out a wacky answer? Maybe something that I wouldn't quite understand how it's related to the book. Why wouldn't they let him climb? And why didn't he let them help? So let's say one of the kids threw out a wacky answer like wash. I might attribute meaning and say, you know what? He was afraid they didn't wash their hands. He does not want their help until they wash their hands. So even if somebody says something that maybe doesn't quite seem on topic, we can attribute meaning so they feel like their contribution was valuable. We don't want them to feel nervous and afraid to answer again. We don't want them to feel like it was a wrong answer. We want them to be encouraged to continue to communicate. And over time, they will shape their answers based on your responses to them. So pausing is also really important. So when I was a brand new clinician, my supervisor said, Brandi, you've got to learn to count to 10 in your head. You just talk really fast. And these kids, their processing speed isn't as fast as yours. And every time you speak, their brain has to start over again. So you need to, if you're going to ask a question, you need to start counting to 10 in your head. Give them ample time to process before you prompt or cue or say something else again. And over time, I've learned that all of my clients have a different processing speed. Some need 10 seconds. I've had a few that needed 30. Recently, I had a young man that needed 45 seconds. So I had to learn to start counting in my head to give them enough time to respond to me. And even with all of you, I need to give you more time before you might feel comfortable responding. So if you're feeling that right now, and all of you are having a hard time responding to these interactive activities, can you imagine how these AAC users who are learning to speak, who are emergent communicators might feel, and why it might take them longer? Shouldn't we give them even more time than you want me to give you? We also want to talk about prompts. We want to model without expectation. No hand over hand, no requirements. We can say things that are indirect, like, Sarah, maybe you have something to say. Kind of lets her off the hook. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Sometimes I also will gesture to the device like this and say, this might help me understand you. Could you help? Or I might give them a couple of options. Like, you know, when I asked you why he didn't want help, do you think it's because he wanted to look cool? Or maybe they were too loud? What do you think? And then give him options to say, you could say those two options or anything else on this page is just fine. So I use that hand gesture for the whole page to let them know you don't have to answer what I just said. You could say anything you want here. So let's practice modeling without expectation. I'm going to go ahead and read this page and then we'll model something. There were times when he felt like he wasn't moving at all, but he was. Then one day he met another yoke who climbed even slower than he did. He helped the slower yoke climb. That was so nice of him. How would you feel if somebody helped you? How would you feel?
I like him.
I do too. I wonder, maybe Catherine or Dorcas has something to say.
I was just going to say happy.
Yeah, it would make me happy too. So you notice I threw out that prompt right to you of that maybe. So it let you off the hook. You could either respond or not, and you did. So we want to do the same for our kids. So people tell me they can read my face. They can read no matter how I'm feeling all over my face. I'm very expressive. So I put that to work in my sessions. I sometimes cue just with a facial expression. So might want to say, I wonder what you think of this book. And that facial expression lets them know, I'm hoping you're going to say something. And I can count to 10. So each one of you can practice right now. What is your expectant pause? What does your facial expression look like when you're wanting someone to say something and hoping that they will? I agree, Nikki. It's so hard to do in the moment. It takes a lot of practice. And that's why I always embed these activities in my presentations, because if you can learn to do this here with me, it's going to be so much easier on the fly when you've got a classroom full of kids or when you've got one child that's got a short attention span. So the more you practice in places that feel safe and don't feel stressful, the easier it's going to be in the actual situation. So we talked about those indirect verbal prompts like maybe. Other ones you could use are like, I wonder, any other ideas? Or let's practice. So I'm going to read this page and see if one of you maybe wants to use one of these prompts to ask an open-ended question. Still claiming, he thought to himself, that is true, he smiled.
What could be up there?
Ooh, I love that question. I wonder what's up there myself. Let's get going so we can find out. Again, we talked about those gestural cues. My favorite is the hand in a circle motion around the page. No expectation to respond. It just lets them know that this could be a place that they could respond. So all of you can practice with the devices you have in front of you, just gesturing in a circle around the page to say, I wonder what you think. The other way is to gesture 2 or 3 options. Like I said before, we could say, how would you go up the hill? Would you dance up the hill? Would you jump up the hill? Or would you run? You tell me, how would you go up the hill? So I gave them a few choices and I circled my hand around the page. So you can practice that yourself. We talked about attributing meaning. No matter what it is they say, we want to validate them and make them feel like what they conveyed was valid and meaningful, and try to find some kind of connection to the story. So the last thing, let's pull this all together. How are you going to create an AAC culture in your home or classroom? How are you going to provide full immersion to AAC all over the place, every 2 feet? How are you going to model AAC in every lesson and activity? How does everyone in a classroom or everyone in your home have access to AAC for modeling? Ask yourself, is AAC accessible all the time in all environments with all communication partners? Or is it just in speech? Is it just at school or is it just at home? How do we resolve that? AAC core boards really need to be within arm's reach of wherever you're at. And if you're a parent, you might need to help equip the school staff with this. If you're a teacher or a speech therapist, you might be supporting the team and the home and the school team in doing and achieving this. Thank you all for coming tonight. If you have any questions, want any of my links, access to anything, you can contact me or NAU, and they'd be more than happy to share any of the resources that I shared with you today. This recording will also be available on their YouTube channel. Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to know before we go?
Thanks for joining us, Catherine and Dorcas. It's nice to meet you both. Oh, there's a message here. Okay.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Brandi. This was
Thank
great.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
I've been doing this for a while and I learned today. So thank you very much.
Oh, good to hear. I'm always up for learning from each other.